Yo, what's going on guys? It's Eclihpse here, and today I have some of the best Clash Royale decks for you guys. So all of the decks in this video will be effective past 1700 trophies, which is Arena 6. Also, one thing I do have to say is please keep in mind, if you don't have any of the troops used, you can always use substitutes. Also, if you find some things aren't working out too well, you can always feel free to change around these decks. These are the decks which I'm using, and of course, some things that work for me might not work for you guys. So the first deck of the video comes from my friend Jewish Lewis, and this is the defense spam deck. So basically this is the most scummy deck you can possibly use in the game, but it's really effective. So here's a picture of the deck, and as you can see, it's basically all defense towers, and then there's a few troops for pushing, and I'll get into everything in a minute. But if you guys would like to try out this deck, you can screenshot it now and then try it for later. But trust me guys, this deck is really good. Jewish Lewis actually got past 2,700 trophies with this deck, and he's still going. So as I was saying, this deck is probably the most effective deck in the whole video. Now, I've used this deck before, and for me personally, it's somewhat inconsistent, and I just think that's because I'm more of an aggressive player rather than a defender. But as you can see, I'll just let you watch this raid, and you can kind of see what he does and why he does certain things. But one tip I would like to make is when you do push, make sure you deploy your troops like that. I'll play that back like in slow motion here, but he deployed his Hog Rider down on the side, and then he deployed a Goblin Barrel. So you basically always want to deploy those two together, and by doing so, you'll just do a whole bunch of damage. So at this point, I'm just going to kind of speed up these raids a little bit. I don't want this video to drag on and be like over 10 minutes long. I'd much rather have it be kind of like smaller, so that way you can watch it faster, and then it's just not like dragging on or anything like that. But basically right here, as his bomb tower is about to die, he deployed his cannon down, and he basically just tries to counter whatever the attacker does, and then he pushes by using the rocket, Hog Rider, or the Goblin Barrel. And honestly, like I said, this is like the most scummy deck you can possibly use in the game, but it's just really effective. And as I was saying, this is just something I can't stress enough. You just have to play super passive using this deck. As you can see, again, he places the Hog Rider down and then the Goblin Barrel, and he's actually able to destroy that right tower. So at this point, he already has one tower down. The attacker has 0 towers, so he just has to defend, and as long as like he can do so, he should be good. But as you can see, he has 3 towers right now, and they take out every single troop that the attacker basically places. Also, one more tip with this deck, sometimes you might have to use the Goblin Barrel like to defend, and sometimes you might have to use the Hog Rider to tank, so that way the troops won't push your side as hard. But right there, we have a win, and let's move on to the next deck. Moving on over to the second deck of the video, this is another really scummy deck, and it's a deck that I actually used for a bit of time, but then honestly it wasn't working out that well for me, mainly because of the fact that I was just kind of rushing things. But nonetheless, this deck honestly works amazing, and you can consistently beat higher level players. So basically what you want to do with this deck is just place a tombstone in front of your Expo, and then when they try to attack your Expo, there's a tombstone in the way, and then the Expo just continues wreaking havoc. So here is the first attack, and I'm going to be honest guys, this is a battle against my clanmate, so this isn't technically a real attack, but at the time being, I was around 1,200 or 1,300 trophies, and then my clanmate was actually over 1,700 or 1,800 trophies. Also, not to mention, he's a higher level than me, and he has like higher level troops than me. So with like, you know, all of this being said, this is like a pretty good attack on my end. So right here, as you can see, I deployed the Expo down, and I kind of deployed it stupidly, so let's just ignore that one. But I'm gonna be honest, like I screwed up my Expo placement so bad in this raid. I really don't know what I was thinking, and I'll cover that up in a minute. Like I'll tell you guys how to improve it, because I was doing this for the longest time, and it's really a stupid mistake and an easy fix. So right here, I'm just trying to save up my elixir. I have a fireball, so I blast his troops, and also always place your Tesla in the middle. The Tesla is like a really overpowered unit at the moment, and I believe they are nerfing it. But right here, as you can see, I have my Expo down and then my tombstone. But the only problem with this is, as you can see, all of his troops come and they basically destroy that Expo. So the proper way to place your Expo is just deploy it in the middle lane, like as I'm like pointing right here, and then you place your tombstone in front of that Expo, and if all goes well, the Expo should still be able to hit the enemy tower, and the tombstone will be in front of it. And the reason I like to have the Expo back more instead of on the side is because if the Expo's back more, it just makes it a lot harder to counter. So hopefully that all all makes sense, and again, this is a really scummy deck. Getting back into the raid right here, there's about 30 seconds left, but we end up pushing overtime for quite a bit of time, and to be honest, I could have won this battle a lot sooner if I wasn't an idiot. Again, terrible expo placement. He has a prince, a freeze, and a hog right there, so all of my expo and my skeletons and all that crap, they all go down right away, but I'm still not giving up. I'm making a lot of stupid plays, but as you can see, we're in overtime. I try this strategy again, but he keeps placing giant skeletons, and those giant skeletons were what was really screwing me up, because they drop that big ass bomb, they have a whole bunch of hit points, and they just create a lot of chaos. At this point, both of us are actually struggling to win. We're both trying to win to our best of our ability, and again, I have an expo down, but he places another giant skeleton and a freeze spell, and then he places a fireball on top of that, so I am just having a very hard time getting past him and just trying to get to his tower. Like, he's putting up a pretty good fight, but we're not giving up. We're keeping on going. We're trying to go strong, and right here I get an expo down, but again, he has a giant skeleton. There goes the giant skeleton. We take his tower down, we place a fireball, and we end up winning the battle. Moving on over to the last deck of the video, and this is the least scummy deck I have. Like, in the video, the other two decks are pretty scummy, and a lot of people will probably be mad at you if you're against them, but this deck right here is just like pretty fair play. Like, it doesn't have any stupid towers, it doesn't have any cheap towers, and I feel like everything in here is pretty basic. Like, there's not any super special deployments like the other two decks. This is just like a pretty solid and basic deck. So now that you have seen the deck, let's just get right into a replay of it. Now, this attack you're watching isn't the best example of how effective this deck is. I did make a few stupid plays, I'm not going to lie. Like, right off the bat, we basically do a tower for tower exchange. Like, he had a pretty strong push off the deck, or off the bat, I don't know what I'm saying, and then I had a pretty decent push as well, to be honest. So right here, it's already tied 1-1, and there's not even a minute passed yet, so this just is like kind of upsetting to me. Like, I hate losing towers right off the bat. Like, I kind of just lose all confidence. But let's just see what ends up happening. So I'm just gonna push with some barbs, and I noticed he had barbs and I had a fireball, so I was able to counter that. And at the same time, I placed barbarians and a prince up top, and then I brought his tower down to 300 health. So at this point, we're just doing pretty well. We just have to get a few minor pushes up, and we can't let him push us too hard again. So right here, there's a minute left. It's double elixir, and I tried to deploy some barbarians to try to fake them out, but that really didn't work at all. And also, something I do like to do on here that tends to work is I'll deploy my hog rider with my prince, and that usually works pretty good as well. But I don't think I do it too much in this raid, because this guy had Teslas and he had a whole bunch of stuff to keep like countering my attacks, and I was just kind of throwing everything I had, and I wasn't thinking about how I should be deploying things. So right here, we're in sudden death. I have my prince down, I threw a fireball down, and honestly at this point I'm just hoping this guy doesn't come back and win. I notice he's deploying a lot of troops on the left, but right here I notice, okay, I have a fireball, I placed that, I win, and then I ended up being able to take his trophies. So guys, this has been Eclihpse. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. If you guys use any of the decks mentioned, please let me know down in the comments below. All of the decks are pretty scummy, and all of them do work. So again guys, hopefully you enjoyed, and peace out.